The White House has floated a trial balloon now about letting the Republicans have their way with Medicare and Social Security at long last. That trial balloon is officially popping. Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Raul Grijalva of Arizona, co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. He and other members of the caucus sent a letter to President Obama today opposing any cuts to entitlement programs. Congressman Grijalva, thanks very much for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much, Rachel. Appreciate it.
Let me ask you about the premise of my introduction there. There is some ambiguity here in the White House's position. Do you think the president really is putting Social Security and Medicare cuts on the table?
Well, there's a pattern in that we've reached a tipping point. We saw it with Afghanistan and Iraq in terms of the timetable. When are we getting out? We saw it in the compromises on the Bush tax cuts. We've seen this pattern in which Democrats are put in the position to having to be the adults in the conversation and trying to hold things together. And now we're back at that point. So if you look at that pattern of concession, and then compromise to the middle, and the Democrats having to bear the burden politically for those decisions. It might be a trial balloon, but there is a pattern that indicates that Social Security and Medicare are on the table, and that is why we reacted the way we did. It shouldn't be on the table. We've reached a no mas point here that Democrats should never support this. We have to be solid and independent, regardless of what those negotiations with the administration produce.
In terms of what you described there as bearing the political burden here, that is one of the strategic questions that I have. And this may be clearer to you from Washington than I can see it from here. But it seems to me like Republicans are really on defense right now about supporting tax breaks for oil companies and tax breaks for corporate jets and tax breaks for millionaires. Those are all very, very unpopular policies. And it seemed like the White House was pressing an advantage on those issues quite effectively. So why at this moment would there come this great moment of compromise?
I think the American people felt good to see our president fighting. They felt good about pointing out the contradictions that we've been pointing out, and I don't think it's any time to stop. This whole cynical strategy that the Republicans have of never really compromising, holding hostage, creating this default crisis, and then we have to respond to it. I think it's, they need to be called out. They need to be pushed back. I think politically they are in a very weak position. And this is not a time to step back and to concede or to compromise to the lowest common denominator. This is an opportunity we have as Democrats, especially with controlling the White House and the Senate, to push back. And many of us worry that pushback is not happening. On the contrary, we're again hearing the murmurs that we're going to make a change. So it's going to be a 5-to-1 ratio, five cuts and 1 revenue generation. That is not a trade, and that's why we need to say very, very earnestly to the administration, we will not vote for your deal. That's been the point of this whole discussion, and it's been the point of us asserting our independence. Our political future as a party is at stake, and quite honestly, our values as a nation are at stake, and we have to take this very seriously. This is not a little nuanced discussion about politics and a compromise. This is a fundamental question about what this nation is, and we have to take it very seriously because it is the fight of our lives.